Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's me, Glenn, from You Can Do This channel. A few things I'd like to go over with you that I've just discovered. Well, I've been watching. There's been a few things that Lectric has done to their trike, and it seems that from what I've seen on most of the videos I've watched from their channel, their site, that they're not really advertising right now. I noticed maybe about 4 months ago they were putting on the heavy-duty plastic fenders, and I also called. What you do is you get tech support. I called tech support. The fellow that I was talking to, I said, yeah, well, I see you're putting on plastic fenders now. And he said, yeah, we're testing them out. We don't know. You can still get the metal fenders. Yeah, you can still get those. And so I went on to ask him what other changes they were making, and he said nothing really, that they were just experimenting with it. And then belonging to the groups I belong to, and I have friends that are on groups, somebody had told me about a guy that on one of the group sites that had got his new electric trike, and it came with a color monitor. And that's interesting. The color monitors are probably the same color monitors that are on their bikes, which is an upgrade, you know, if you want color. I don't need it, but it's interesting that they could have just put a color monitor on the original bikes. It may be bigger too. Mine looks small compared to what I've seen in the pictures, and I've not seen the bikes with their monitors, so that's another interesting thing on that aspect. And then the baskets have changed. You can see by the baskets that they no longer have this basket or this big basket. They put a little flat rack in the front and a little teeny basket in the back that's not even like this. It's smaller but wider, so that was quite interesting. They put a bell. You can get a bell with it now. Now these are supposedly free accessories now on their site, to where when I bought this bike they advertised it as the same price, $14.99 or something like that, and then you could buy the accessories, to where my trike ended up costing probably $1,600 and so many dollars, because of I bought the baskets, and I don't know, I think it was just the baskets and maybe that seat with the back post on it, the backrest on it, which is really an uncomfortable seat. And that plastic piece on the back, that eventually breaks, and it's just, that's pretty hokey. So I invested in a good seat. Other than that, there's nothing else has changed except one thing that he stated that really came across is like, wow. When I first investigated trikes, which was, gosh, what, 2.5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, I was looking at cargo bikes. And the cargo bikes that I was looking at were made by HJM. I never really called them until just lately. I did look at their bikes, and they were very expensive, and they were built really well. But then I said to myself, I don't want to spend that kind of money on these trikes, not knowing there was not a whole lot of reviews on these bikes at that time. And then this trike popped up on Facebook, and I think it was probably one of the first trikes that popped up for electric trikes with the differential, the limited slip differentials, and the passes and the torque sensors and stuff like that. And I saw the price and I said, well, it's reasonable enough to get it and take a chance that it's not a piece of junk, you know, and deal with it. And so we all know how the story went with that. That's one thing they brag about, that they've sold over 40,000, 70,000 of these already. I'd really love to see the numbers of the ones that came damaged. We won't get into that, but there it is again. I'd love to see those numbers of which ones came damaged and that had to be replaced. The whole purpose of this video is what I'm getting at is the pictures were really good that he put on there, and I'll post those. What's changed now is the rear axles. They went from a 40mm tube here in the back to a 50mm tube, which you'll see in the pictures, and a taller bearing, a bigger bearing. So it looks like to me they put a bigger axle in it, but I would bet from the bigger axle poking out of the bearing that they kept the end piece the same size so they could put these wheels on there. I guess most of the bending that was going on from them dropping these bikes was right at the bearing part. I don't know. You would think that that being that little piece is still sticking out of the one side, that it's still susceptible to bending. So the real crazy part about it all is that they don't show any advertisements, no changes to their site. And so I called them and I asked, you know, hey, could you explain to me what's going on with the trike now? And I had to dig everything out of this guy. I said, well, you know, I've got one of the older trikes and now you're showing that you have a beefier rear end, plastic fenders, different baskets and stuff. He goes, well, yeah, it's just like a, you know, like an Apple phone, first gen, second gen. And I said, well, I guess I got the first generation electric trike now, huh? And he goes, yeah, I guess so. You know, he never really wanted to come out and say anything about what was going on with him. He wasn't even secure or proud about the subject. And then I went on to say, well, okay, wow, let's say the bearings go out on my bike. What are you going to do about it? And he goes, well, just take pictures and send it to us and we'll see what we can do. And he goes, when did you buy it? You know, he looked it all up, when I bought it and everything. Well, you've had it, you know, almost a couple of years now. It's out of warranty. And I'm going, yeah, but still nobody works on these bikes. You can't even, you know, I said, what size are the bearings on it? I don't know. What is the axles? I don't know. You know, they have no paperwork on none of the parts on this thing except for maybe the monitor, the bell, and in the baskets and whatever. Okay, they'll replace all that. They have all those parts. And the batteries, of course, which is great about Lectric. I love this bike. It's been a great bike because I've taken good care of it and I know what to expect from it now that I've put almost 2,000 miles on it. But I find it real interesting that they don't even have it on their advertisement. If you go to the Lectric site, or if you're getting ready to order this bike, you're thinking about getting it, have they improved it? If the bearings they put in the back are accessible, because they're going to go out eventually. These are not off-road bikes. You tear it up in the gravel and off-road and you're going to tear the bearings up, in these older models especially. The newer ones, I don't know. You'll see in the pictures, you can just see the bearing size. It looks kind of crazy because the axle is so big and there's just barely any bearing there, going from a 40 millimeter tube to a 50 millimeter tube. And that's one thing about HJM, those cargo bikes, they have 50 millimeter tubes. And that's what I got curious about. Whose tubes did they change to? Because this assembly back here is separate. It unbolts from here. So did they go to whatever HJM's using as a heavy duty rear end and apply the axles and their applications to it? And I said, well, you know, are you gonna send me the new updated bike, or, you know, the new rear end? And no, you know, it was all quite interesting how it was like, I feel like a test dummy because there were so many of us that ended up with busted and bent up wheels, busted bearings, so many. I mean, you can't, I know when I was looking at the sites, I belong to a couple of different sites, and I swear 1 out of 5 bikes came really damaged back, or maybe more. I mean, you tell me in the comments what you think about all this. And it doesn't have the cassettes, it doesn't have gears, 6 gears. I knew what I was getting. I didn't need the gears because I don't have the leg strength for those gears to pedal. And if you can still pedal, you still have strength, then buy a bicycle. You don't need a trike. If you want a trike, get a trike. But that's the difference now, because I knew that I couldn't pedal a hard bicycle. I didn't get the sprockets and the gear change because I use the motor a lot. I do pedal taking off, and certain areas I do pedal, but it hurts my knees. And that's another thing. If you don't have your seat adjusted right, you're hurting your knees. Go and look up the correct amount of leg length for your leg to bottom out on when you're pedaling a lot. There it is again. I just wanted to get this out and tell you about the changes. New and improved? I don't know. We'll have to see. Maybe they're just waiting around to see how these things turn out for them. I was just getting this out real quick to let y'all know about this. What you think about all this. Maybe you can leave a comment in my page, because I'm going to keep digging around trying to find out. They never really answered the question about the rear end, where they got it from, or they don't do that, which is really odd. And I dug into the questions about it too. So anyway, I'll let you go. Leave some comments. Let me know what you think, to see if you feel kind of left out on this now. I feel kind of like a test dummy over this because mine came so beat up. I still have bent fenders. I just left them on there, but I did get new wheels. All right, I'll let you go. Take care.